Hello all, welcome to Quantifiers. I hope you all are in best of your health. So today the topic that we're gonna discuss is para jumble. So some calls it para jumble, some calls it para sentence rearrangement. So this topic is massively requested one. Lots of people have asked about this particular topic on para jumbles. The reason is, of course, the accuracy is a gray area here. But again, I would say that this is a topic which is a reading intensive topic. So this is just another way of testing your RC skills and a little bit of logic skills. And yeah, of course, analytical skills to blend these two skills together or to work these two skills together. So why I say that this particular topic is similar to your reading comprehension is that because just like a reading comprehension, you have to understand the text here. You have to understand the controlling idea and see the cohesion in the passage. So without wasting much of the time, now let's delve into this topic of sentence rearrangement or para jumbles further. And hopefully we will pick up some learning.
What is the sentence rearrangement is all about? It is kind of sentences that they're not in the right order. Like in case if we're going to read them from the sequence A, B, C, D, E, it will not going to make sense. For example, let's say I'm writing, he is my favorite student. Now, in the second sentence, I'm writing, let's say Amitabh is the student of my class. Now, in case if I'm going to read them, let's say, okay, Amitabh is one of the student of my class, something like that. So in case if you're going to read it, let's say you're going to read the first sentence as A and then you're going to go to B, it will not going to convey any meaning to you. So he's my favorite student and Amitabh is one of the student of my class. So that is not again. So sentences are not in the right order. You need to rearrange the sentences so they logically make sense. And the one thing that you need to know is that the sentence rearrangement can come from any diverse topic. It's not necessary that it will be from your subject area. They can be the para jumbles, can be again just like in RCs. Okay, so just like RCs can come from social sciences, from humanities, from science and technology, from business environment. Similarly, the para jumbles sentences could be picked up from any particular diverse area. And one thing, this should not be the first pointer that I have to say, but just don't keep it in the mind. Just stay here that any passage is particularly divided into various paragraphs. Okay, and it's not necessary that every time the para jumbles is picked up from the first paragraph. So sometimes they can jumble up the sentences from the second paragraph also. So you can have an abrupt opening or an abrupt closing for a sentence. So please be prepared for this thing. So don't sit with this mindset that every time the para jumbles will be from the first paragraph of the passage. So be prepared for an abrupt opening, such as, for example, sometimes there are some questions in which you don't have any particular noun. There's no subject. The sentence just talk about any anonymous person who is he. And the entire sentence is revolving around he. And after reading all the sentences also, we are not able to figure out who this he is. So most probably for this particular sentences, the question setter has picked up from the second paragraph of the passage. Okay, so just be prepared for all these things when it comes to the para jumbles in the topic. Now, ideally, there is what are the skills required is that you need to ability to read and comprehend article on diverse topic. Okay, so basically, what is required is that you need to connect the dots. That's what I would say in short form. That you need to connect the dots. Okay, you need to look for subtle hints. You need to look for subtle connections, reference point. You and connect the dot. Of course, for that you need to understand the context. Okay, so this is how I would say that these few skills are required when it comes to the questions in a para jumbles. The first of all is that are you good with reading? Okay, are you able to read the sentence carefully and not just reading? Are you able to understand the context? Okay, once you have read it, once you have understood the context, are you able to connect the dots? Are you able to look for some sort of connections, references, and so on? So this is how you have to actually go about. And yeah, the regular practice actually helps you in the questions of a para jumble, right? So I just skip it up. I'll get to the main point because I'm again just assuming that you guys know about this particular topic a little bit. Okay. Now the paragraph given will be the jumble sentences. Now there can be a variety of questions when it comes to para jumbles. today's class, I'm going to focus mostly on a theta based question. That is, we're going to practice the questions which do not have any kind of an option, because these are specifically CAT based crash course, right? So we're going to type of do the CAT based questions only. And once we get into the non-CAT formats and all that, we're going to do this topic with the options also. But anyhow, this particular topic is divided into three categories. The very type one is that where all the sentences are jumbled. Now, in that also, it can be with option or without option. Now, the CAT gives this topic without option, whereas in other non-CAT papers, this topic comes with options. So I hope you know that they'll give you 1, 2, 3. Let's say they give you 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences, and sometimes they give you, let's say, the sequence 4, 2, 3, 1, and the second is 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so something like this. So this is para jumbles with options. Now, what happens in a CAT is that you don't get options and there's a space provided to you after this question, and from the keyboard, you need to actually type in the answer. For example, let's say, yes, theta, type in the answer. So what happens there is that, so suppose you feel that the fourth is the first sentence, so you type 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever you feel is the logic, right? So in CAT, this topic comes without options. So these are two types of questions. So one is where this is they can come with option also, and they can come without options also. The number of the sentences can vary. So here, let's say I've given a 4 sentences, so it can increase to the 5 sentences also. It can increase to the maximum of 6 sentences. But in CAT, generally expect that the sentences will be either 4 or they're gonna add the max be 5 sentences. Because again, you can see, like in case if there are 4 sentences also, then what is the would be the probability? Give me the probability. Yeah, it's 4 is 2 way. So what is the answer? 4 is to 3 is to 2 is to 1. So what is the maximum? Maximum how much you can make? Yeah, it's actually the probability is 1 is to 24. So in case in CAT, if it is giving you 4 sentences that you have to rearrange, then the possibility of you getting the correct answer is 1 out of 24. And with the 5, it further increases. Okay, so 5, there are 120 ways, and in 120 ways, the answer has to be 1. Okay, so that is, yeah, that is the case. So there is the problem with the para jumpers. Now, I want to talk few things about the para jumpers before we get into the question types, especially when a para jumpers is a theta format. Now, theta format is type in the answer, which is a very CAT specific, where they don't give you options. This particular topic comes without options. You have to type in the answer. It's an important topic. Why it's an important topic? Because including the odd one out, in case, because the odd one out is a close cousin to the para jumbles. So including odd one out and the para jumbles, you can expect close to 5 questions from this particular topic. 5 or at the max 6, not beyond that. That is what I'm figuring out. So probably 5 questions. Okay. So 5 questions is a good percentage in your exams. Okay. But yeah, there are problems with the theta cat. Now, what is the problem is that you should not actually count them in your attempt. Now, when I say that you should not actually count them in your attempt, is that if you get them right, it's okay. Else, the exam of a CAT is a test without these questions. Okay, I'm not taking consideration odd one out. I'm just specifically talking about the para jumbles. Okay, so just treat the para jumbles question as a bonus. Okay, you get it right, it's a bonus for you. You didn't get it right, it's absolutely fine. Okay, so that is the case, but do not actually waste a lot of time solving a para jumbles question. Okay. Now this happens sometimes. You can just keep, let's say, close to 3 minutes, or at the max 5 minutes. At the max, I'm telling, at the max 5 minutes for the para jumble question. Again, the problem is the probability of the correct answer is pretty low. Okay, so majority of the arrangements, in case if you feel that the ABCD is the answer, then the sequence could be ACBD also, right? And whatever your sequence is, that also makes sense. Okay, so that is the problem. There's a lot of subjectivity in this question type. So you got to mark the answer for sure, because since it is a theta, so that means that there is no negative marking. So you never know when you can be lucky about it, right? So you're gonna definitely mark your answers for sure, but don't waste too much of time on it. Okay, so maybe whatever the rules that we're gonna do, just quickly apply them, and whatever the sequence that you feel could be the answer, go ahead and mark this thing. Okay, so again, do not solve them, let's say, at the start of the paper. Okay, because otherwise it will gonna eat a lot of your time. Okay, And that is the case. So don't waste time on it, but definitely type in whatever you feel is the answer, since there is a no negative marking. Okay. And consider them as a bonus question. Don't consider like this I would suggest is that treat your exam, don't count them in your exam, and treat your paper as if it is a test without these questions. And you get them right, it's bonus point for you. So this is how you have to deal with this particular topic. So don't totally get engrossed in the topic of a para jumbles that you actually waste 5-10 minutes solving one para jumble for which the correct answer is quite oblivious. Okay, so that's one of the case. So this is one question type. Whereas para jumble, sorry for this thing, I just clicked the photo from one of the book. So this is where all the sentences are jumbles, and this is with option 4 sentences. This is how the para jumbles will look like in case if the topic is with options, right? Okay, so this is para jumbles. This is how para jumbles will gonna be will be there in your exams. Like there are a couple of sentences and there will be space given to you. So whatever you feel is the sequence, okay, you need to actually type in the answer. So this is how the topic will be there in the chat. Okay. Now the third type of the format for the para jumbles is again a kind of a theta type, right? Now what happened in them is that they'll give you 4 sentences. But rather than asking you to type in the answer, they ask you which sentence will be the first sentence after rearrangement, which sentence will be the second sentence after the rearrangement, which sentence will be the last sentence after rearrangement. Now, in this type of questions also, what you need to do is to come up with your own shadow answer. And then you need to mark it. So it's again a kind of a theta type of it, but does not comes in a cat. So maybe we'll go and give it a skip for right now. But I hope you understand all the 3 question types in case of para jumbles, right? Now, this is an important slide. Now, why this is an important slide? Because this I picked up from a CAT 2018 slot 1 passage. This was a question. So this particular part, impartiality, objectivity. So this was your question type. Now, can you see that how this para jumbles question are being framed? So maybe the question setter skipped this particular line and he picked up something from between, right? And can you see the second sentence, Twitter? So he intentionally actually skipped this for instance. Now, in case if it would have written, for example, this would have become easy for us to figure out, right? Similarly, can you see the third sentence? It encourages us. Now, he again missed up a couple of words. It's possible to criticize this approach on its substance. For instance, it actually started criticizing directly. Okay. And then the last sentence. So this is how the para jumbles is being created by the question setter. They skip some words, they add some words, so it does not become quite obvious. Now, it totally depends upon the question setter that how he wants this particular para jumbles to look like. Now, we're going to do in the next class, we're going to do some of the questions that I'm going to ask you which question you should do and which questions you should totally avoid. So there I'm going to show you that the question setter was a devil. Okay. He does not want you to do this particular question type. And in case if you started doing this, that's a bad trap for you. And this is what CAT is a game of strategy. Okay. It's not a game of, let's say, rectification or something cramming and all that. It's a game of strategy. So in case if you fall into the devil that is being set up by the devil questions trap that is being set up by the devil question setup, you're totally lost because they do this kind of a thing time and again. But sometimes you get a goody question setter also, which gives you all the kind of the probable hints. So they want that, pick me up, please solve me. Okay, so those kinds of the questions. So this was to just give you a rough idea that how para jumbles is being created by the question setter, right? Now, how to do para jumbles? This is a technique which is being recommended in so many books, but anyhow, let's understand. Ideally, there's no such rule for para jumbles. In fact, I would say that what is the most important rather than I would say rather than the practice also, okay, I think so that what plays a major role is your reading. You are good with the reading, the verbal ability section, the entire CAT verbal section would be just like a cakewalk for you. So as always, a reading does play a big and a crucial role in case of a para jumbles also, okay? It will not gonna help you, let's say, much in a CAT, but yeah, your skills to solve this particular question, your ability to spot minor details, connect the dots, okay, that will gonna actually pay you off. So it's reading that is actually very crucial when it comes to para jumbles, okay? Rather than, I would say, solving a couple of more questions, I would say that what is more important and what will gonna give you a break with the other pointers is your reading skill. So that is anyhow required even for the para jumpers. Okay, so let's see. We are pretty new. We got a question and there are 4 sentences in it, right? And now I need to actually rearrange. Then what should I do? Okay, so the very first thing, now this is an acronym for S subject, T team, O opening, P pairs. It's up to you. Okay, first and the foremost thing that whenever you get a para jumbles based question, the first thing for you is to identify the subject and a theme. Okay, the first and the foremost step is to read all the sentences carefully. Now everything starts with the reading when it comes to the verbal ability section, right? But the first thing, whenever you're reading a para jumbles question, see, you have to read it first of all carefully. Okay, you don't get a much of a time to reread the sentences time and again. So whenever you're giving a first attempt to read, so give your 100%. That is one of my advice. It will gonna save your time for it. So whenever you're reading the sentences, read it carefully, read it for the purpose of understanding rather than for the sake of reading. So once you've read the sentences, the next thing is to identify what is the subject and what is the theme. So subject is about whom the sentences is talking about. And the theme is basically what is being talked about those particular subjects. Okay. For example, let's say the sentences could talk about Shakespeare. So Shakespeare becomes subject. And they're talking about the writing skills. So the writing skills becomes the theme. So the first and the foremost thing is whenever you got 4 or 5 sentences in front of you, to read them and to figure out what is the main topic under discussion. What is the major topic that is being discussed? Okay, what is the subject and what the author is talking about the subject. Once you get this particular thing, the next important thing for you is to figure out the opening sentence. Okay, now opening sentence is easy for you to figure out. So anyhow, let me just go to the slides of the opening sentence and we're going to practically solve 1 or 2 questions and figure out the opening sentence. Okay, so what are the opening sentences? So once you have read the sentences, you know this is the subject, this is the topic, this is the theme. Now look for the introductory sentence. So always keep like this kind of a thing and see if A can be the opening sentence, B can be the opening sentence, C can be, or D can be. Now introductory sentence is easy for you to figure out. In case if for those questions where you're not even able to come up with the introductory sentence, all the sentences are so close by that you're not able to figure the introductory sentence, that means that maybe the question setter is the devil. He's a kind of an evilish. Okay, he does not want me to do this particular question. So maybe just keep it for the last few minutes. Just skip that particular question and you may go to the next para jumble, which is being created by a good question setter. Okay, so these are certain hints that will gonna help you decide whether I should actually utilize my time on this particular question or shall I give it a skip and maybe at the end of the few minutes. Now remember that the last few minutes of your exam, that is 40 minutes for the verbal. So maybe after 35 minutes, okay, the last 5 minutes is a kind of no productive, okay, because there's so much of a pressure that the section is about to get over. You are also mentally prepared to switch on to the next section, right? So those last 5 minutes are quite unproductive. Last 2-3 minutes, let's say, not count 5 also. So in that, maybe for those kinds of the questions where you're not able to find any kind of the links, clues, or opening sentence, maybe you can just type in at that point of a time, right? So introductory sentence, how do you know which is the introductory sentence? So introductory sentences always introduces you to the idea or theme of the paragraph. Like after reading this particular sentence, you'll be able to figure out, yeah, okay, this is the subject of the topic. This sentence is giving me the idea that what is the author talking about. This is actually telling me the theme of the paragraph. And the most important is that it is an independent sentence. Now, what is an independent sentence? For example, I'm writing, Ram is one of the student of my class. He is very intelligent. Okay. Also, he is good in sports, but he needs to work on his interpersonal skills. Now, you can see that he, also, but, all these kind of the words are actually dependent on some of the sentence. I cannot put just he as a standalone or also as a standalone or but as a standalone. Okay. Whereas the introductory sentence in 80% of the cases, I'm still keeping the 20% as a margin. So in 80% of the cases, generally an introductory sentence is an independent sentence. That is, it does not depend on other sentences to complete the meaning, right? Ram is my favorite student. So it is complete. Okay, it is not depending upon. But when I say he is very intelligent, so he is actually dependent on something. So this is how it's one of the big clue for you to figure out the introductory sentence. Now it may have a subject or a noun, so it's kind of the same. It may talk of a general idea, very important. Okay, so general idea is being reflected. So every time, this is the thumb rule rather, that you have to go from general to specific, and the introductory sentence will be in the most generalized form. So the sentence that you feel is in the most generalized form has the chances of it being the introductory sentence is quite high. Okay. Bhibu Datta, that's what I told you when you asked me that. I said that this works for 80% of the cases. See, English is not a maths where I guide you that a 2 plus 2 is a 4 and you apply it and it's done. There's a lot of, it's a language, there's a lot of subjectivity in it. So when I say that generally it is an independent sentence, I don't mean that there can be no sentence which could actually start with he. But in case if the sentence is starting with he, then means that all the sentences are going to actually start with he. There will be no noun. But again, in case if the question setter is a bad question setter, so maybe he's not going to give me the idea of the subject also. Okay. So that way, it's not necessary that every time there will be no sentence that will going to start with a pronoun. No, but majority of the time, yeah, the introductory sentence will going to have a noun or the subject. It totally depends upon how the questions are being framed by the question setter. Okay, so don't worry, we're gonna practice. So that will be clear. So 3 pointers to keep into the mind related to the introductory sentence. So introductory sentence are generally, you can say it's a general in nature. Okay, it's a general in nature. It introduces you to the person. It introduces you to the idea, theme, event, subject. Okay, they use noun, generally the proper nouns. Okay, and maybe they are an independent sentences. They set up the discussion, they set up the tone, they set up the discussion for the rest of the sentences, right? So I hope you got this particular introductory sentences. Can we do some exercise? So can you figure out what is the opening sentence? So I don't want you to make up links and all that. Don't give me the particular sequence. Just tell me which sentence do you feel is the opening sentence. Which is the opening sentence? It's actually the first sentence. Exactly. Yes, guys. Yes, guys. Okay. Now, because it is actually kind of introducing us. Now, London suffered another terrorist attack today when a wall of flame emanating from a builder's bucket inside a supermarket bag swept through the packet carriage of an underground train. So it actually sets the context. Now, that a worse tragedy did not occur. Now, 22 people, so it's getting into the specific details. Several passengers were hurt in a stampede. So all the specific details. So the first is the most general sentence. So it's easy for you to figure out the opening. The next thing, I generally don't recommend it, but yeah, you can even look for the concluding sentence. So once you have figured out that this could be the opening sentence, you can also look for the concluding sentences. Now, it's not necessary that for every question or the every sentences, the concluding sentences will be quite obvious. Not necessary. Okay. Sometimes it's hidden also, but for some sentences, in case if you're easily able to come up with a concluding sentence, you can keep that also, right? So conclusion, so what is a concluding sentence is basically the words that have these kinds of conclusion trigger words, but it's not necessary. Okay, the context is very important as a concluding sentence. It is not necessary that it will always start with one of the above mentioned. In case if it starts with also, then also it's not necessary that this is the concluding sentence. Sometimes this happens that the author has given an idea one, right? And to conclude that idea, he mentioned the word therefore. But then he again come up with an idea number two. So that does not mean that the therefore is the last line of the sentence. Are you getting this point, right? So these are again the traps that is being set by the question setter. So the words like therefore, hence, as a result, not necessary that every time these sentences will be the concluding sentences. It may give an end, or let's say a full stop or a pause to one of the concepts that is discussed in the passage. Once you figure out the opening sentences, so you know that the A is the opening sentences, but what about the rest of the other sequence? What is going to come here and here? Okay. So how you're going to actually figure out that particular thing is with the help of the pairs. So generally, I don't want to call it as a pairs, but yeah, let it go. Okay. Now, this is again giving you a big hint. In case we're not able to come up with the opening sentence of any particular arrangement, and in case if you're not able to figure out the pairs of a particular arrangement, so that means that the question setter does not want you to waste much of the time on this particular question, right? For those kinds of the questions where the opening sentence is quite visible, apparent, and where the pairs are also easily trackable, for those kinds of a question, I would say, yeah, utilize your 2, 3, 4 minutes and do that particular question time. So this is how you have to make a trade-off to pick or to skip a question on a parajumpers, right? Skip in the sense, just type in because it's a no negative marking. Now, there are a couple of pairs in it. So we're going to go one by one to all of them. I've taken in examples of them. So quickly we're going to do, because again, this is again a keyword technique. Now, this was also one of the questions that was being asked in the paper, and I took it from the magazine. Now, what happened? Can you see here? Method acting is experiential. To do it well, actors. So acting and an actors keyword need to construct cause and effect. Don't worry, we're going to take it everything, Yash. Okay. So method acting is experiential. To do it well, actors. Now, actors excel at method, actors, method. So what is happening here? The one way to solve your question on parajumpers. So once you figure out the opening sentence, now how to actually make a link between the remaining sentences? The one way is looking for the keywords. So can you see here? Method acting, and then acting and the keywords, actors are the keywords. So that means that the acting and the actors needs to go hand in hand, right? So method acting mentioned in the first sentence, method action mentioned in the third sentence, actors also mentioned. So this is how you can actually look for the keywords. Now, what is keywords? For example, let's say we're going to do one of the question maybe in the next class. So there they were actually mentioning about Indian government, right? And in the next sentence, it was talking about Delhi. Okay. So sometimes we say Indian government and Delhi is a keyword. And then they were talking about the USA and the Washington. So the USA and Washington is a keyword, right? Similarly, sometimes it happens that a first sentence talks about corruption. Then the corruption is not mentioned in a second and a three sentence, but the fourth sentence also started talking about corruption. So generally, we can see that in case if there is any kind of a link between the keywords, right? So Indian government and Delhi will come together, and the USA and Washington will come together, right? Not Indian government, and then we talk about Washington, and then Delhi, and then USA. So this is how the sequence does not go, right? So look for the keywords. Method acting. Okay, this also talks about method. So generally, yeah, these two sentences can be placed together. So this is one way, but it does not work every time. It may work sometime, it may not work sometime. But sometimes this is only actually used by the question setter to trap you. So you cannot ignore it. Okay? It's a keywords technique. So we'll be doing a couple of questions where I'm gonna again, let's say, revise the concepts. Now, the another and the most important thing is with the, I would say, a linking words. Okay. Now, these linking words kind of actually, let's say, they actually help you in solve your parajumbles questions, right? Now, for example, the words that indicate a sequence. Now, this is very easy for the words that indicate a sequence. So suppose in your parajumbles, there are the words written firstly, secondly, lastly, at last. So you know that the sequence is pretty easy. First, the sentence containing firstly will come, then secondly, and then at last. Okay. So there can be the words that are actually giving you the hint related to the sequences. Okay. So sentences that starts with these words are the logical followers to other sentences. You know it very easy. So before this used to happen, now this has happened, it will happen. Okay, so this is how you can look for sequencing words, but rarely does the question setter gives you the sequencing words. The next is words that indicate. Hello. So yeah, am I audible, guys? Nishta, is it fine for you now? Right? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah. So next thing is to look for the conclusion words or the culmination words. For example, let's say lastly. So whenever you get these kinds of the hint in the sentences, no, always let's say highlight them, underline them, or let's say do not do it a word like do it on board or on screen, but you can do it virtually. So always think of, yeah, there's a word finally, there is an accordingly, there is a consequently, there is therefore, there is as a result. So how is it actually related? Okay. Is it giving an end to the entire paragraph, or is it giving a stop to a particular idea of the paragraph? So whatever the idea that it conveys, then the concluding part will come later, right? So first the idea will come and then the concluding part of it comes. So all these kinds of the words actually give you a big hint to solve your questions on para jumpers, right? Similarly, let's look for the other things, other words that are giving you an additional information. Now, these are really important. Two types of the words, that are the words that are giving you an additional information and the words that indicate a contradiction. Now, additional information, for example, in case if some of the sentences are saying also. So it should always trigger to your mind. You should send the triggers that also, which is that particular idea that is already being discussed, and this is giving me an extra additional information about it, right? So first that particular idea will come, and then the also sentence that is giving me extra additional information will come, right? So always keep these kinds of the words into consideration. Additionally, okay, so that means that this idea is already being talked before, okay, and this is giving me an extra additional information. Moreover, okay, for example, so that means that already some idea is being given, and this sentence is giving me the idea related to that this sentence is giving me the example related to that specific idea, right? Similarly, look for a contrast or a contradiction words. But still, even though, although, however, okay, instead, on the other hand, so that means that in case if all the sentences were talking about positive, immediately after the but, the remaining sentences are going to talk about negative. Or earlier they were talking about the negative. Now with this kind of a contrast word, the remaining sentences will be all positive, right? So these words are really important. You need to see, but so what is that contrast? Okay, where is the contrast? So these sentences are talking about positive. Okay, now with the but, he started talking about negative, right? Very, very, very important. Okay, opening sentence, and the next thing is to highlight these kinds of the words, the sequence words, the conclusion trigger words, the additional information words, and the contrast words. Is it clear so far? So good. Are you all there with me? Are you all there with me? Is it fine for everyone, right? Now, the next kind of the, I would say, a pair is the time indicators. Now, this is very self-explanatory, the name itself. So anything, a piece of writing may follow a chronological sequence, right? So it's very easy. Maybe 1930s, what used to happen, 1940, and then 1960. So this is pretty easy for you to figure out. So can you tell me out of this two, which will be the first sentence? What will be the pair? Very easy. Which will be the first sentence? Yeah, easy. Why this is? Because it talks about February 1857, right? Whereas it talks about March 1857. So this is time sequence, that is A will come first and then B will come first. So suppose in case if this was 1856, then in that case, suppose this sentence was, then it should be B and then it should be 1. Exactly. Right? So time indicator. So this is not given by the question setter most of the times, but yeah, sometimes in case if they are very good. So next, and the important is your pronoun, a proper noun and a common noun. Now, out of these two sentences, can you tell me which one will be the first sentence? Exactly. So it should be Q and P. So first of all, you're going to have a sentence containing the proper noun, and then for that proper noun only, the sentence containing the common noun. Okay. Now, can you tell me which is the first sentence here? Exactly. So D and then C. So an old building near the station was recently reported to be a building of historical importance. The building. Okay. So articles A and N, yeah, are used before common nouns, usually when these common nouns are mentioned for the first time, okay, the article the is used for a particular. So what is happening? We are again going from a general to specific, not general also, but generally. And okay, so articles the is used for a particular reference whenever I want to specify onto a particular thing, right? So that's one of the ways. So you can look for these kinds of a subtle links. So CAT does not gives you grammar, but these kinds of the indicators and all that, they actually test your understanding on your grammar and all that. So this is where the knowledge of your grammar comes into practice. Okay. Now this is very important. So just like the connecting words, I would say the next important clue is your noun and a pronoun. Now, whenever in the sentence you have a pronoun, okay, always first of all try to figure out what could be the corresponding noun for it. Okay, so it's, let's say in this sentence, you can see on the very first day of work, Rohit was asked to join the basketball team. This wasn't surprising as he had played basketball for his college team, right? So now can you see, always whenever there are pronouns, just like the contrast words and the similar words and the sequence words and the concluding words, always keep into the consideration the pronouns that are being used. Okay, always highlight and look for he is referring to what, this is referring to what. So this wasn't surprising. What wasn't surprising was that he was asked to join the basketball team. Okay, one of the important pairs that actually help you solve the questions on para jumbles. And when I say that look for the pronouns, it's not only he, she, they, we. Okay, it, they, these, this, those, they, okay, us, our, hers, all of these are valid pronouns. Okay, so always look for the reference that what these pronouns are used for. So every time the sentence containing the noun will come and then the sentence containing the pronoun. But in for those sentences where there's no noun, there is just a pronoun, then it totally depends upon the context of the sentences, right? And immediate, yes, N should come immediately after M. So it should be M and N. Okay. Now pronouns can be linked on the basis of genders and number only, right? So masculine pronoun has to go with the masculine gender and a singular pronoun has to go with a singular noun. So you cannot write, let's say, they for Mohan. Okay. So they is a plural. So you have to figure out what is this they. Okay. Mohan is a singular noun. So that means that there must be some other pronoun in the sentence that they is actually referring to, right? So this is one of the important pair. The next is an abbreviation. So what do you feel will come first? In this, a full form will come first or the abbreviation will come first? Yes, every time the full form will come first and then it will be followed by a abbreviation. Yeah. Now, similarly for the surnames and a full name, or maybe let's say for a nickname and a full name. So what will gonna come first? So first of all, we're gonna write, so Vijay Dinanath Chauhan will gonna come first and then the short name, right? Similarly, Mr. Narendra Damodar Modi, and then we can, for the rest of the sentences, we can write Modi and Modi. So these are some of the subtle links that you need to connect or join. Okay. Then I've already talked about that you have to go from the rule of general to specific. This is really important. Sometimes some questions are just based on the rule of a general to specific. Now, can you tell me which is the correct answer here? Which will be the preceding? X will come first or the Y will come first? Yeah, Y first and X later, right? So Khan's architecture is characterized by use of red bricks, the extensive use of geometric. Now, this is a very general sentence that is talking about Louis Khan, I think so, architecture, right? And then I'm Ahmedabad is a testament to that. Now, again, you can see that it's a pronoun. Testament to what? By use of red bricks, the extensive use of geometric, right? So again, a sentence that is general and then specific. Now in your paper, in your sentences, para jumble, sometimes you get a dead sentences. Now what are these dead sentences? Are those sentences which cannot be linked to any other statements, right? I mean, like they just maybe, let's say, we're going to do one question on a Nehru for that. And we're going to realize, right, that there's no role. I mean, like this is kind of an odd one out. Let's say A, B, C goes together because they are talking about a common theme. It altogether talks about some other thing. But still, it's a question on a para jumble. So this is a dead sentence. So the dead sentence will always go at the last of it. Okay. So maybe this is just a question setter may have picked up from any of the other paragraph of the passage, right? So ABC, let's say, talks about Shakespeare's writing skills, whereas a D talks about his personal life, right? So D is a dead sentence. So most probably, since it's not an odd one out question, it's a para-jumble question. So most probably D will be the last sentence. Similarly, there are other clues, question and an answer, right? Or maybe I'll go to the next slide, so that we're gonna make it more visible, and we're gonna do a quick recap, and then we're gonna solve a couple of questions. So any of the space is not there, so I may have to go. Let's write it here. Okay. So let's see whatever we have done so far. So sorry, I was like, it's okay, no? We didn't rush up. You are able to get the concept so far. Any doubt, any confusion, please just ask me. Right, so just see what we have done. So we first of all we see that the para jumbles is a kind of a theta format for cat, no negative marking. So you should attempt it, but don't waste too much of time on it. Now I've shown you how the questions are being created. So there can be a devil question setter, there can be a goody question setter. Okay, so this you need to actually figure out in your paper, right? Secondly, I asked you that the technique is actually stop AC. Now, what is stop AC is that, first of all, read the sentences carefully. And whenever you're reading the sentences carefully, always brainstorm. What is the subject? What is the theme? What is the topic under discussion? Once you are aware of this thing, start looking for the opening sentence. Now, opening sentences are general in nature. They are kind of independent in nature. They actually introduces you to the idea, subject, theme. Okay. Next thing is to look for pairs. Okay. Now in pairs, the most important are, some of them are the noun and a pronoun. Then what is this noun and a pronoun? That always look, whenever there are pronoun in the sentence, always see for which particular noun they are actually used for. Okay. Next could be your keywords link. So sometimes India discussed in two sentences. So these two sentences will gonna be together. Okay. Next is look for conjunctions in a verb. That is, look for same words or look for the opposite words. So whenever you get also, in addition to, moreover, okay, so always see that they are giving extra additional information to what idea. So that idea will come first, and then the sentence containing extra additional information. Similarly, opposites word, despite, in spite of, even though, although, however, on the other side, but. Okay, so these kinds of a word. So maybe after using these kinds of the words in the sentences, maybe the author is changing the tonality of the sentences. Okay, very important, noun, pronoun, and same words and the opposite words. The next is, the thumb rule is that you always have to go from general to specific. So always pick up the sentences general to specific, right? Now the fifth could be your time sequence, your chronological sequence. We're going to do one of the question based on it also. Next could be your full form. So full forms, any sentence that is containing the full form will come first, and then the abbreviated. Similarly, full name will come first, and then the nickname or the surnames will gonna come first. They come later, right? So these are some of the ways, and then you can always say that the idea and the example specific to that idea will be together. A question and the answer to that particular question will be together. And in case if there is any unanswered question, then that particular question will be the last sentence of your rearrangement. Okay. So a question and the answer to that question will come together. But in case if any question is unanswered, so that means that will be the last sentence of your rearrangement. Okay. So these are some of, you can always look for cause and effect. So cause of particular thing and the effect of it will gonna come together. So these are pretty simple things, right? So this is how these are some of the rules that you have to see how to apply depending upon the context. But for those questions where all these kinds of the clues or the pairs are not a bit obvious, then it's a skip question. Okay, just type in, don't waste much of the time and go ahead with the time. So let's see this particular question, right? Which one do you feel can be the opening sentence? Can first A be the opening sentence? Let's figure it out. Let's draw the lines here and see. Why A is not the opening sentence? What is the issue with A? What is the issue with A? Perfect. This sorry fact. So what sorry fact? That means that some sorry fact should already or should be mentioned. Now, can B be the opening sentence? No. Why no? But thanklessness and impossibility do not down him. Who is this D? Him, right? Now, can C be the opening sentence? No, he too dependent, right? Can D be the opening sentence? No. Why no? Because Michelle Hoffman is a full name. So we already learned this, that first full name will come and then the nickname, right? Yeah. So the only choice that is left with us is E as the opening sentence, right? So let's see. Now, is it an independent sentence? Yes. Is it introducing you to the subject and an idea? Yes. That translators come somewhere near nurses and street cleaners, right? After that, what do you feel? Michelle Hoffman. Now, can you see a keyword? Translator, right? So Michelle Hoffman, a poet and a translator, accepts this sorry fact. Now, what is the sorry fact? That the in terms of gap between words and reward, translators come somewhere near nurses and street cleaners, right? So Michelle Hoffman, a poet and a translator, accepts this sorry fact without approval or complaint. Now, after that, what do you feel is the answer? Yes, it is C. He acknowledges too. Now, who this he is? He is actually Michelle Hoffman. He acknowledges too. So that means that he accepts the sorry fact, but other than accepting the sorry fact, he acknowledges something else also. So 2 is giving extra additional information. So he acknowledges too. In fact, he returns to the point often that best translators of poetry always fails at some level. Now you can see that all the sentences E, A, and C are negative sentences. Okay. Now, after that, the correct answer is B. Why B? Because but. Okay. But thanklessness and impossibility do not daunt him. So it's a positive sentence. Okay. That thanklessness and impossibility do not actually stop him. Okay. Hoffman feels passionately about his work, and this is clear from his writing. So you can see that after the contrast word but, the rest of the sentences are positive. Now we cannot have E, A, C, D, B. The reason is that because we cannot make an abrupt shift from negative to positive. We need the contrast word that was there in a B to shift from negative to positive, right? So this is how you actually need to do questions on parajumpers. I hope now this particular technique and whatever we have learned, you are able to make a sense of it, right?